Hi everyone, thank you so much to all of our students who have joined us for our Next Steps to Transfer workshop presented by the Los Angeles Harbor College Transfer Center. This workshop is intended to support our students with the transfer process. So you might have just finished your application back in November, December for UCs and Cal States, to name a couple of the transfer institutions that you might have applied to, or you might be getting ready to submit it right now. But we're going to be going over are the next steps after submitting the application. And let's go ahead and take a look at the agenda. So during today's discussion, we're going to be going over January updates, supplemental application, acceptance letters, conditional admission, UC statement of intent to register, CSU intent to enroll, appealing an admission decision, transfer timeline, and then the Q&A. And we're also going to be discussing the transfer recognition ceremony. And thank you again to our wonderful students for taking the time to learn this info. So CSU and UC specifically like to have the students do updates after they submit their transfer application. So what that means for students is that in, for example, January, you need to input your fall grades and winter spring in progress courses on CSU Apply. So you're going to go back into your CSU application and you're going to put in your grades from fall, and then you're also going to put in the classes that you're planning to take in winter and spring, and you're going to save that, and then you're going to click on the update application button in your application. The same thing goes for UC. So UC just opened up their transfer academic update within the UC application on January 8th. So that's now live and ready to go for our students. You're going to be doing the same thing, inputting fall grades and winter spring in progress courses on your UC application. That's what will be done in January. And then on top of that, you'll also have to do a supplemental application for select programs. So some programs that will ask for a supplemental application varies by campus and major, but a lot of the times it's Long Beach. Long Beach loves to ask for supplemental application. So does Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, UC Berkeley, and select majors. So if you applied as a social work major, or you applied as piano, architecture, anything like that, you will have to do a supplemental application in many cases, not all, but some. So that's why you want to make sure that you check your email regularly. To give you an example, the Cal State Long Beach supplemental application is due February 1st, 2021 this year. So you want to make sure that you check your email very carefully to see if you got the email or not. If you didn't, that's a red flag that you need to follow up with Long Beach. If you did, but you didn't notice it before, you want to make sure that you start working on it. And we will be having a future workshop tomorrow on the Cal State Long Beach supplemental application, and you're all welcome to attend. I'll drop the link in the chat at the very end if you'd like to join us. The next thing you'll have to do is when you do your application, they may ask in the supplemental component to verify your ADT if you did indicate that you're getting an associate degree for transfer from our college. So what that means is they will ask you to confirm that you're getting an associate degree for transfer. And for example, psychology, you're going to indicate that you're finishing it in the spring, for example, or that you finished it in fall. On top of that, you want to make sure that you see a counselor so that way we can do your graduation petition for spring 2021, so that way your degree will appear and that way you will be e-verified. The supplemental application specifically for Long Beach will also ask about major prep. They will ask if and when you will have completed the major specific requirements. Indicating that you do not plan on completing a major prep class can affect your admission in the case of campuses like Long Beach. So let's use myself for an example. If they ask me in the Long Beach application, they'll ask me, for example, when are you finishing Psych 10 research method? If I indicate that I'm not planning on finishing that class, that's not very good because they want that class done by the end of spring, and that can cost me my admission. So I do want to make sure, and any student wants to make sure, that they finish all of the major specific requirements that Long Beach or any other university asks of them by the end of spring for admission purposes. And they'll ask you some additional questions such as your Golden 4. They'll ask you if you're applying to Cal States like Long Beach, for example, they will ask, you know, when you finish English 101, English 102, transfer math, communication. For the UCs, it's the Golden 3, which is English 101, English 102, and transfer math. They will also make you confirm that you're going to finish 60 transferable units. A counselor can help check that for you. by the end of the spring semester, not by the end of summer, okay? Next are application updates for CSU Apply. So you want to go back into your CSU Apply account and you want to recheck with the counselor. We'll review that with you to make sure that your application is ready to go. In case you made any errors with the transferable classes, you can update those with the counselor. We can help check that for you. If you repeated a class successfully, you can now change your old grades to RP. Oh, excuse me, so sorry about that. Let me go back in. Sorry, everyone, just some technical difficulties. But as I said before, so you're gonna go back in and you're gonna add RP for classes you successfully repeated and include academic renewal if you were recently approved for academic renewal. You also wanna be sure that you provide all campuses and grades and indicate which courses were transferable in there. So if you forgot to mention before that you applied to, or excuse me, that you attended Long Beach City College, or if you forgot to differentiate between the class that you took at Pierce and the class that you took at Harbor, now's the time where you want to log back in and make sure that that's all corrected. And a counselor would love to help you do that. Our transfer center information window is also glad to do that in Connex Ed, so we can totally do that for you. And then of course, the January update, you're gonna input those grades. So that is due January 31st. If you do not submit the January update in CSU Apply, this can result in immediate denial from select CSU campuses. I've seen it happen before for my students, which is very important, which is very unfortunate, which is why we want to make sure that we're encouraging you to get that done on time before it's too late. The next thing are acceptance letters. So the CSUs, the UCs, private schools, and out-of-state schools all choose their own time frame of when they want to send out acceptance letters. So CSUs, you'll normally hear back late January to March, sometimes as late as April. Specific dates vary by campus, and decisions are sent via email and the campus portal. So I'll give you an example. Cal State LA, I just went to their series for counselors on next steps for transfer, and they talked about how first they'll send out acceptance letters to local students that applied. So Harbor College students are considered local. You're a local student at Cal State LA. So if you applied, you'd be hearing back sooner. So that would be around February that they'll start sending out acceptance letters. Non-local students, they'll get acceptance letters in a different month. So for example, March, April. So that's the nice thing about applying to local schools, but they do have separate times that they send out those acceptance letters to students. And then the UCs, they will release after April 30th their admission decisions via email. Private schools such as USC, they like to send out their letters by the end of May. And it's normally a physical letter by mail, excuse me. It's normally a big packet. So the UCs and Cal States like to send out digital notifications of acceptance versus USC loves to send out big packets. Out-of-state campuses, excuse me, it varies by campus. Some campuses provide admission soon after applying. So I had a student last year that I helped apply to Colorado State, and she found out a week later that she got in. So that was really nice, and they sent her a big packet in the mail. Other campuses, they'll send out an email from out-of-state schools, and they'll take more time. So it really just depends. But that's why it's important. I hope that the overall message that you see is that it's important to check your email every single day for regular updates, and you want to make sure that if you ever receive an email that seems a bit unclear, that you go ahead and contact the transfer center so we can help you understand that email better and what you need to do next. The next thing would be conditional admission. So conditional admission is a common phrase that my students often are a little bit, concerned about. The letter will normally say, "Dear," I'll use myself, "Natalie, congratulations, you've been conditionally admitted to UC Irvine." So for a student, they might say, "Why does it say conditional?" This is a common term, and it just means that the student is responsible for meeting the deadlines in order to keep their admission. The conditional admission also means it's revocable. So you're admitted on the condition that you follow all of their rules and do everything that they ask of you, essentially. So if you miss any deadlines, they can cancel that admission on you. The next thing, I'm going to go over some examples of conditions that you need to follow. So one of them might be finishing all of your ADT requirements and getting your degree by the end of spring 2021. So that could be a condition that if you don't meet it, they're going to take away your acceptance letter. Your acceptance, excuse me. If you don't complete all of your Golden 4 classes, so let's say you might have waited until the last semester to finish transfer math, you definitely want to make sure that you pass transfer math by the end of the semester in order to maintain that conditional admission. The next one would be completing major specific requirements by the end of the spring. So my example earlier, if Cal State Long Beach for a fact wants Psych 10, I need to make sure that I take Psych 10 and I pass it by the end of the spring for Long Beach for psychology major. You also want to make sure that you submit transcripts to the university before the deadline. So it's actually a really nice idea to go through all of your acceptance letters, track all the deadlines because it is different for each campus, right? The UCs are all on the same page. They'll have quite the same deadlines for many things. The Cal States, they've all set their own unique deadlines, and I think it's because there's 23 schools. They all get to work however they feel is most appropriate for that campus. And so with that being said, you want to make sure that you're on top of every single deadline. Next is, of course, if you don't, another condition is if you don't turn in your CSU January update by January 31st, they can take away your admission for that. And then if you do not submit your intent to register or do a confirmation that you're going to enroll at that school, they can also take away your admission for that. So another question my students might ask me are about the waitlist offer. So occasionally a student will get a letter or email saying that they were offered a spot on the waitlist. So this means there may be space for you. It means that your application met the minimum requirements, but in order to help yourself be more competitive on going from the waitlist to the admission list, you want to work on raising your GPA in spring, finishing up requirements to meet an associate degree for transfer if possible, if it's deemed similar, right? So I'll give you an example. Maybe a student at first they were a history major, but they weren't planning on getting the history ADT for some reason. And then they realized they got waitlisted to many schools. So then they decided, okay, I better just get that ADT in history. So that would be a good idea to try to finish up in the spring. So that way you can have another reason to justify your ability to graduate quickly at the Cal State. Like that's an example, okay? Complete additional recommended courses for the major. So if I indicated on my application that I was gonna finish Psych 10 in summer, right? I wanna make sure I take it in spring instead to meet Long Beach's deadline. And then submitting your intent to enroll to an alternate campus can save your place. So if you get waitlisted to a campus, that's your first choice. Let's say Long Beach waitlists me. I wanna make sure that if I'm okay with going to another university, let's say I get admitted to Dominguez, that I still do an enrollment deposit with that school, because being on the wait list, they can tell you a week before school starts if you got accepted from the wait list to the admission list. And you'll only have 1 week to plan. And so with that being said, you kind of have to, still work with another campus to save a spot there in the event that you never get off of the wait list. So that's why I try to recommend to my students to submit an intent to enroll to an alternate campus if that's okay with you and you're comfortable with that. You also want to notify that campus that you accept the waitlist offer. So if they offer you the waitlist, you need to make sure that if they say, okay, please reply to this email saying you accept, or please go into your portal and accept, you have to go in and do that before the deadline, because if not, it's void and it no longer matters if you wait too long. So you can meet with the counselor also to help strategize getting accepted from the waitlist into admission, right? So a counselor would love to help you with that. You're welcome to meet with myself or anyone in the transfer center. We can go over some techniques with you, review your records, and see what would be a good idea. The next thing would be statement of intent to register for UC. So the deadline for statement of intent to register is June 1st. You may accept admission to one UC campus only. So remember before how we talked about if you get a waitlist offer from one school, you can accept to another. That works if one school is a Cal State and one school is a UC. That works if it's 2 Cal States. But if it's 2 UCs, if you accept to one, you cannot accept to 2 schools. So if I got into UCLA and UC Irvine and I just did not know which one to pick, I cannot submit enrollment deposits to both schools. I can only pick one. The cost is $250 and it must accompany your acceptance. So you have to get ready. I do encourage you now to start thinking about how to be able to save up some if you need help with getting resources for that. I'm glad to help you contact the university to see if there's any way you can get additional support. I know last year, Cal State LA was really nice about that. So CSU does the same thing. You have to, of course, submit your intent to enroll, confirming that you're gonna attend the campus. Sometimes the cost can be really high for students. Some campuses are free and they don't charge anything to students, and others do charge, right? So for my students who might have some anxiety about the expense, please let us know if you do need help with that so we can try to get you some resources to get that covered. If you feel like you're okay with saving up some money for that and that's manageable, great also, but if you need help, we're glad to help you with that. But what it is whenever you confirm that you're going to start attending a university, you do have to pay some kind of fee. I know last year Cal Poly Pomona didn't charge the students, which was really nice of them. Cal State LA, if the student wasn't able to pay, they could fill out a form to have it not be charged on their account, which was really generous of them. And other campuses, so some campuses will charge $100, some campuses will charge $50, some will charge $175. It varies by campuses. Dominguez is also really nice. If the student meets financial guidelines, they won't even charge the student at all. Like the student won't see a fee on their account. So it depends on the campus. Okay, and then of course there's appealing an admission decision. So if a university tells you, you know, I'm so sorry, we're not able to offer you admission to this campus at this time. That is if you want to appeal that decision and say, can you please look at my application one more time? You'll have to do the appeal process for that school. So every single campus has their own appeal process, which means please take a second look at my application. A counselor like myself, we can help you find out how to appeal based on the specific campus. So I'll give you some examples. Dominguez, they have a formal cover sheet that you have to turn in and a packet to submit. So for Dominguez, I had a student last year, she did not have, something happened with her application and she got a denial. So we had to like provide documentation and justification of why, if they could please review her application one more time. And there's a lot of instructions to follow. So if you need help with reviewing that, making sure you do everything, I'm glad to help you with that. Cal State Long Beach will ask you to provide a letter and documentation. So I actually had a student this past year, very hardworking, and unfortunately Long Beach counted his units wrong. So we counted together 61 units, I think, transferable. Long Beach sent him a letter denying him, saying he did not have 60 units. He did. I counted them. I had one of my coworkers count them for me, maybe 5 times each. He had enough units, so he had to turn in a letter and his transcripts to say, can you please look at my application one more time? Student barely found out today for spring, which is literally, I think it starts in a week or two, that they accepted his appeal. So it takes a very long time to find out if your appeal got approved or not. And that's why, you know, of course, it's wonderful to try to appeal an admission decision, but I do want you to know it is a little bit of a high pressure situation because the universities normally don't let students know until the very last minute. So if you're okay with that, that's perfect. If you're not okay with that, that's also fine. You just have to make the best decision for yourself. So top reasons that students appeal an admission decision: sometimes the campus did not correctly count the students' units, so we have to appeal that. Sometimes a student was able to add a class that they originally indicated they wouldn't be taking. So let's say I couldn't get into English 102, so I told them I wasn't going to finish it, and they sent me a denial letter. And then I realized, oh my gosh, they're making one extra section. I can do it now. Then you want to do the appeal, right? If a student indicated inaccurate information, if you, let's say you forgot to get someone from the transfer center to review your application,
it's 6:30.
And there were some mistakes on there, you want to make sure that a counselor looks it over first. We verify, yeah, no, this is actually very different GPA, things like that, we can try to do an appeal that way. And then we also have appeal workshops for the future. After admission letters are sent out, we can help students with writing an appeal letter and procedures for admission appeals. So you're always welcome to attend that. But my hope is that you all get acceptance letters and we don't have to deal with appeals. The next thing, friendly reminder, universities will be in contact with you via email. So you want to make sure you check your email daily to keep track of your upcoming deadlines to complete tasks related to admission. If you have questions about an email, like I said before, a transfer counselor can help, so ask us. And then this is the transfer timeline, which is an ongoing process all year long. So in fall, of course, you apply to universities. Winter, right now is the time where you're inputting your grades for fall, and you're in progress classes for winter and spring to see as you apply, and you see Transfer Academic Update in your UC app. In spring, you're going to be following up with all the universities regarding all the requests that they have for you. You'll also be petitioning to graduate with a counselor. You'll be receiving conditional admission from universities, submitting your intent to enroll, requesting GE certification after grades post, and transferring. The last thing I want to say is one of the last but most special steps is our transfer recognition ceremony, where we love to celebrate our students. This is an example of how it looked last year because we were virtual. So we had our students, we welcomed them to turn in a picture of themselves, a quote. So one student, this was his quote, name, major, where they transferred to, and we turned it into, when I say we, I mean one of our wonderful transfer counselors. She was a CGC at the time, Vanessa. She worked so hard on making all these slides for our students, and she put together a really beautiful video. A lot of our students did watch parties with their family at home, and it was just really special. So we hope that you keep a lookout in May. We will be sending out information to help you turn in all that information to us so we can compile a wonderful slideshow for all of you to enjoy and celebrate your hard work. And we are now going to turn it over to questions. Thank you so much for listening, and we appreciate you all. And thank you for joining us on YouTube if you're watching this on YouTube, and we hope to see you soon.